This is an important element in here that a lot of people don't realize within the Constitution, and it's that the division of powers. And you brought up the Canada Health Act, and to me, that is probably one of the most outrageous examples of the federal government usurping the sovereignty of the provinces. And we've seen this, where the federal government is now willing to bribe, and some of the provinces don't take much to bribe either, Brian. Let me, but they're willing to
even Alberta is still being bribed by the federal government.
Yeah.
By the way, just before you go on, just let me say this because before so we don't lose it, and you can come back to it again, and then I'll stop and let you finish your point. But listen, this is a very, very key point, because that's what diminishes Alberta and Saskatchewan and those people who are arguing on energy policy and environmental policy. This is their weak point, because the judges and the courts, when it gets to the courts, some of these issues that Alberta is now arguing, or Saskatchewan is arguing, and other provinces too. But if the judges realize that, oh, that's funny, for Alberta, they're arguing away on the energy side, that there's oil and gas is owned by the provinces, yet on the health side and on the social services side, on the higher education side, on the infrastructure side, they're ceding to the federal government. And so that makes the argument that Alberta is now making weaker. Where? Not next door in the pub, but where it really counts, amongst the judges and the judiciary, and gives the federal government unnecessary and really unconstitutional leverage over the courts, because the courts are starting to say in their decisions, right, well, the federal government's got to have a role here, and because you've done this now for so long, it becomes a precedent.
Yeah, that's the very point I was getting to. Like, we did it with the Canada Health Act, and that was the most outrageous one. And I think at the time, I may be off by a few dollars, but the federal government used, I think it was $6 billion at the time, to buy the jurisdiction of health from all the provinces. Well, except they still left the responsibility with the provinces to deliver it, but that Canada Health Act came with about $6 billion federally annually at the time, and we've seen this, and then of course I would say that has very much grown and grown. I can see that maybe some of the lesser prosperous provinces would be willing to do that, but it's still to their own long-term detriment, in my view. And then we saw what the result of that.
But Randy, you got to understand that the Ontario and Quebec are doing it to the same degree as the poorer provinces, and that makes it even worse in trying to argue something before the courts later.
I agree 100%. And then, but we